in June of 1956. Went to Salzburg and in a day inherited this children's home with about 11 children, 10 of them being racially mixed children.
We came in the evening and the children were in bed, but in the morning there was 18 black eyes looking at me, you know, those little duffers. And we didn't have children. We were married 8 years and miscarried twins the first year. And so we didn't have children. We had our time together. We were ready for a family.
Let's see, the oldest boy was Robert, and then Evelyn, then there was Peggy, then Jerry, then Joe, then Wilma, then myself, Pete, and then Fritz, and Eddie, and Betty. I think I've got them in the right order. But between the youngest and the oldest is only 2.5 years.
When we inherited the family, the oldest one was only 3.5, and 4 of them were still in diapers. So they were quite small. A lot of diapers. That was before the day of disposable diapers.
People say, okay, so you speak German, Jerry. You're from Austria. You're black. That's nice. It just doesn't fit. I don't know. It doesn't fit the mold, I guess. I should be blonde, and I guess you know.
A lot of people, I've had a lot of people say, well, you sure have a dark complexion for being from Austria. I thought they were all white, you know. And then I have to explain that my mom was Austrian, my dad was Afro-American, serviceman from over here. Back in the 50s, Austria was real prejudiced. It was a very prejudiced country. And that's actually how all 9 of us kids got put into a children's home. Because as soon as the mothers realized they didn't have a white, you know, that we were mulatto or, you know, anything other than white, they got rid of us. And actually the 9 and 10 of us were very, very fortunate to be put into a children's home. I'm sure a lot of kids didn't meet that, you know, sort of a nice beginning we did, to put it real nicely. You know, who knows what happened to thousands of kids.
There was still that mentality that anybody that was of color was seen as an outcast or novelty. So you had one or the other. And I think that was just a stigma that was put on certain people of color, and they just weren't accepted.
I had grandparents that came and visited me at the orphanage every now and then. My real mom and dad, I have no idea who they were. So
I don't know anything other than that my mom was Yugoslavian and my dad was either African American or Ethiopian. The ethnicity, I really don't have a good sense of that.
My birth mother, I remember seeing her one time. She came to visit at the house in Europe, and I couldn't figure out who she was. Blonde hair and blue eyes. I was just gorgeous woman. I thought, well, she can't be my mother, she must be a visitor. But she was my birth mother.
The orphanage started in 1954, I believe, or 53, I'm not sure exactly the year. And a couple just went over there. It had not been in existence before. In fact, the facility that we eventually ended up living at was an old mill. It was built, I think, in the 1500s or so. It's been about 500 years old, and it was converted into an orphanage.
The orphanage was real big. There was a lot of us kids. There was 10 of us at the time.
There in the orphanage, had a lot of snow, a lot of hills, and had a lot of fun just doing goofy things. I mean, taking a baby wagon down the hill and watching a kid fall out of it, you know. It's just typical things kids could do, and I think that was the richness of that we were allowed to be kids, yet we're taught to be responsible.
I don't think anyone could have ever asked for more of a better and more fun childhood. We had acres to play in, a huge mountain behind our house, and all of us children just ran all over the place. We had so much fun.
The thing that we got in trouble for, and it's you can probably imagine, with 9 of us kids, if my mom and dad wanted to know who did something, everybody said, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. And so it was like everybody was lying, you know. It was usually small things. It's usually small things that we made big.
There's always a bully. I mean, he's just in that video you saw where the kids, one girl was pushing kids down a hill and one starts crying. I mean, that's just typical siblings. But I think it was healthy. If we got out of hand, then we were disciplined for it.
When you have 9 kids in one house, somebody's going to get sent to the corner every day, probably 2 or 3 times. So yeah, I mean, you know, when you're kids, you find all kinds of mischief to get into, and when there's 9 of us kids in one house, it was real easy to find mischief to get into. We all did our share of getting in trouble.
My parents were strict, and I'm extremely grateful for that. I don't remember hearing a single swear word in my house in my entire 18 years I lived there. Never once. Yelling, screaming, or otherwise, never saw it until I left my house. They taught us values, working values. We always said thank you and please all the time, everywhere. If we didn't, we wouldn't know.
I heard a rumbling upstairs, and I remember to this day my dad gets mad. I told Aunt Edna that I hear something upstairs in the attic real loud, and she told me to be quiet and eat, because we were eating, you know, we were at the supper table. Yeah, pretty soon from the 3rd story up, the smoke was coming clear down where we were sitting in the bottom story, in the 1st story eating supper. The smoke was swirling down.
It was smoky, and all the children were crying and running every way, every direction. It finally calmed down. I don't remember who said, everybody just hold my hand and we'll all walk out together. The fire to us children looked colossal.
When the house burned down, we got kind of farmed out to different neighbors. Real sweet, you know, it was that community. It was actually Krosk Mine was the name of the town, and it was like a farming community, and everybody in little communities like that is just, you're just like one big family. I remember I stayed with a farmer named Seppenbauer, and some of the girls stayed with Deutingers, and they just, you know, we stayed with different farmers, and they took care of us just like we were their kids.
It was fun, but after a couple of days, we all wanted to be together again. We really wanted to know, what is Betty or Wilma doing? And you wanted to see them, but we were in such an area that we were farmed out a ways away. And Mom and Dad tried to keep track of us at all times to make sure we were behaving, of course. My father did rebuild it with some help from other missionaries, but I remember he had a huge cement mixer, and he made these little blocks, hundreds and thousands of these blocks by hand, and built the house.
Fritzi, at the time we came to Austria, was in the hospital. Peter had trouble with his heart when the twins were born. And then he got better, and then Fritzi turned to the worst. And then we found out that his pituitary gland did not work. So he was little. He never grew. And so it was always hard. He wanted to be home, and he always wanted to drink water, and, you know, we wanted to keep the fluid out of his body. It was difficult, but Fritzi enjoyed being on the farm and being at home. He just loved it. So, but he was many times, you know, back in the hospital.
But he was a sweet little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Just
real sweet, and he just loved to be with the family. He was in the hospital probably half of his life.
yeah.
And whenever he's in the hospital, he'd ask to go home. He wanted to go home, but he passed away at 5½.
February 14th, 1961. And I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but it's that whole event to this day. There's some days where I have tears, because it's just, I think I lost my buddy. You know, as odd as that may seem, because he was so ill, but there's just that connection they have to somebody. And I think it's because it's my flesh and blood, if nothing else. Yeah, my brother was buried in a pauper's grave. I guess that's the way they did things over there. But I specifically remember that, and maybe I was thinking that happened, but at the funeral I had a red hat on. And for some reason, some pallbearer in there made me sure to take it off. And that's stuck in my mind, that why he had me do that. But it was just one of those things that I can't recall my emotions. I just know that he was gone. He was Fritz. He was just, I think he had so many ailments. He was a pretty strong-willed kid. And I remember he would say, if you don't give me those crayons, I'm going to be mad, and things like that. And we'd fight around crayons and things like that. I mean, that's just typical what kids do. And so, but I think he was such a frail kid, from what I remember, that you have to be pretty careful with dealing with him.
There was no overt racism in Austria and Germany that one would notice. However, we had come to the conclusion that there was sort of a hidden, subtle bit of racism. When Evelyn and Robert were 10 or 11, instead of sending them to the school that would be a college preparatory school, the school authorities did not consult us. They just sent Bob and Evelyn to the middle school, which would have qualified them for good occupations, but would not have qualified them to ever go to college.
I think it was an all-white school, and I believe we were the only colored people in the school. In Austria, I didn't feel I was black, green, or otherwise. I just didn't feel it. I don't think children feel it until they become older. And I remember an incident one time where my mother wanted to take her to ballet classes, and they said to her, "We don't take Negroes in this class." My mother said, "Okay, that's fine." So she went home. And I'm sure people did and said something that we were not aware of, but because my parents protected us.
I never had seen a black person, and I'd never seen a Negro in Austria all of my life. I know that their future wouldn't be best, for the simple reason that they were the offsprings of girls. There was no marriage. And so they always would have been looked down. It may have been a real problem. No, it wouldn't be, but then it would have been.
My mom is a very strong person, and she had to go through a lot of adversity herself, because when Russia invaded Vienna, she had to go through a lot of negative experiences. So I think even though she may have not been the same skill color, she probably understood pain, emotional pain and abandonment. And to this day, she's just a very grateful person for what she has. Having walked 10 kids down the streets of Austria, she got some criticism. Some people made some rude comments towards her about her having these mixed race kids with her. So many of them that really affected her. And I think that was not, that was unhealthy for her to hear, but it didn't stop her from loving us. One time we had to stay with some neighbors, and they went to give us a bath, and they couldn't relate to the fact that we were colored. They thought they were dirty. So it's just kind of a unique perspective, but that's because they didn't see anybody of color, and so they thought, oh, we're dirty kids, when it was just, that's the color of our skin. Sometimes people would ask me, what color is your blood? It's just a naive comment, but they didn't realize how much that could hurt me if I let it.
Those are the things that encouraged us to want to adopt. Plus, we thought that it might be better for the children to have a mother and a father instead of an aunt and an uncle.
For the first about 8 years, we just knew them Uncle Joe and Aunt Lee. And we had so many other people in the orphanage, so they were just part of the group. We kind of sensed that Uncle Joe and Aunt Lee would become our parents. I'm not sure what it was there, but it just seemed like that was their passion in life, to help us out.
When my parents had indicated they wanted to adopt us, I was elated. I knew what it meant as far as I could at that age, that they wanted to make us their children.
I think what made the biggest impact on me in 1962, I believe, when they decided that we'd have a better opportunity in America, I think down deep inside, we started feeling like somebody cared enough to take the risk to take us in their lives, no matter what baggage we brought with us. When they told us that they're going to adopt us and move us to America, I think I personally saw that as something great happening. What was hurtful for me, or not really hurtful, but discouraging, I had a popgun, and to this day I know the drawer it's in and where I left it in the orphanage. It's just kind of interesting how you leave some memory behind, but that's a memory that keeps you connected to that place.
You hear a lot about America when you're in another country. I did anyway, about how great it was. And so, yeah, I was really excited to come over here. And everything that people said pretty well was what America was like.
I knew that Mother and Father had indicated to us, we would like your children to get a better education, and would you like to go to America? At the time we were, I don't know, maybe 14 or so. It didn't really register what it meant to move. It just didn't register at all, let alone move to a farm in Idaho.
We arrived here in Caldwell with the 2 cars and almost no money. However, we found a 160-acre farm where the people were willing to accept a very small down payment. We just started farming.
We were shell-shocked, absolutely shell-shocked. You know, coming from Europe in the city with the little trains and little restaurants and cobblestones, to come to this huge farm. I think we had to embrace it a little bit at a time.
At that time, 160 acres was big, you know, and then of course my dad bought more and more. But yeah, it was really exciting. It was the farm had a dog that came with it, and we enjoyed him. It was Smokey was his name. He was a big, I don't know what he was. He wasn't a Labrador, but he was a big dog like a lab. And of course, like I said, we all got our chores then right away, and for the next several years we worked hard. It was a good life though. It was a good life.
I think it probably took all of us about a year to figure out what a farm is and this big place for us, and we had to work then a little bit. All of us had to pitch in.
We learned to work, and I think that's the thing that sticks with me. I think none of us children will ever be without a job, because they've taught us to work no matter what it is. Whether you're janitor, whether you're office manager, take that job and do the best you can and be responsible. And I think that's a benefit that I'll never regret, because that's helped me take on any job. Even when things are tight, I've learned to find a job somewhere. My first day of school at the U.S., go in, speak English. Ich kann nichts verstehen. It's just, how do you communicate with somebody when you don't know the language? Wow. They were shocked too, I'm sure. Because 9 of us came into school, nobody knows English, and and there's some embarrassing things you say that that's not an appropriate thing to say.
It was natural to draw to each other, us brothers and sisters, because we could sneak some German and communicate.
It's amazing how we came out of that, because we eventually learned English, but it was just like, buddy up with somebody and go for it. No excuses, And I think Mom and Dad helped that, because they forced us to speak English, not German. You could always fall back to your mother tongue, but they said, no, you're in America. Speak English. I've been blessed to have a great childhood and have great parents. I don't know, we just felt accepted by them. It's kind of interesting, people say, well, was this a negative experience? In all my time, I don't see it as a negative experience. I think it gave us a perspective on life.
They sacrificed so much to come over there. I wish I could be a tenth of what my dad is.
Somebody took me in. Somebody valued me as a person. I think that's the piece I take from that.
My mother and father that I have now are my mother and father. They changed my diapers, they fed me, they protected me.
We all had struggles in our lives, even in our adult years, but Mom and Dad are there no matter what. And I think that's the consistency I saw in them, that no matter what we struggled through, they said, hey, we love you, we care for you, we want to help you through the choices.
They sacrificed an awful lot for us kids.
Not many people would pick up 10 little black children into their home, adopt them, and think nothing of it. That is love.
I felt they gave me a new hope in life when it seemed hopeless.
I don't need other parents. I have parents, which I adore.
All of our youngsters have never had the least bit of trouble finding jobs and pretty good jobs. On the farm, they learned to work. We had to work, and they learned to work. All of them have done quite well, really.
It was stressful at times, but we enjoyed the children. I felt that when the time came that my children say, I want to go, I don't care what they want to be, I said, here's the door, you go and you make yourself a life. And what you work for, that's what you're going to have. I came with nothing. You go, you leave with nothing. I have nothing to give. I taught you how to work. I introduced you to the Lord. And I said, that's your legacy.
She's a hard old biddy.
They all did beautiful, and I'm proud of them. Those that have nothing, I'm proud of them. They're happy. You know, they don't have to worry about losing anything.